Hi, this is Cedric Ty. Thanks for listening to the audiobook version of my accessible ADHD guide for and by artists. And I guess the reason I'm making this is because there's so many resources by professionals that for some reason they didn't consult any neurodivergent people when it came to how accessible the resources are. So there's lots of things in which it requires writing or listening to something that's like 2 hours long for the parents of people with ADHD. And at this point, I also have to admit that even just over a year or two, a lot of this information feels a little bit out of date. For example, just to give you a warning, this is still very diagnosis heavy, and terms like time blindness not only are a little bit, you could say, insensitive when using one disability as a negative, it also doesn't entirely describe just ADHD, but we now have a lot of research that shows there's a ton of overlap with autism, which I now self-identify as also having ADHD and autism, and trauma as well, which again I also identify as having all those things. Wonderful. But to get started, there's nothing like having a cover with my original artwork on it, and it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be less about labels and more about let's make a guide for and by us, which goes back to, of course, Black folk who wanted to have things that were not benefiting just. Oh my god, I should have probably practiced some kind of script. But anyways, in my head, I really think of the way that people would describe FUBU, but generating wealth and ideas that can stay within a community and actually be used and be for people who it's intended for. There's also a disability concept that says nothing about us without us. So that's what I wanted my cover to convey, is if there was direct information, maybe start off a shorter pamphlet with the easiest to understand information at the beginning, and if you get into it and it piques your interest, you can go ahead and get a little bit more in depth. This is probably a first of two, especially because I didn't get to collaborate with all the artists I would have wanted to, so this is me just grabbing resources from all over the place and hoping that no one asks me why I am including some things and not others. But I won't go into all that. I'll just do the audiobook version, which is what I intended to do. Okay, so